Ready to go, boys? And 3, 2, 1. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 20 of the Prehistoric Podcast, the Big 2-0. I'm Francis Division.
I am Andrew Sorsdahl.
And I, for the 20th time, am Bradford Leland Peterson.
That's a lie. It's not the 20th time you said that.
Why?
You added Leland. No one knew that before.
No.
You said it before.
I don't think so.
You're absolutely fucked.
That's not.
Well, this will be the first and last podcast. The first and last 20th.
Yeah,
This will be the first and last 20th podcast. That is true.
Yeah.
Of our podcast series, anyway.
Yeah.
So, you can see my knee a little bit there. That's uncouth. We left the setup up from yesterday, and we're going to just keep swinging it.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
Get caught up a little bit. Today, retroactively, this won't matter, but it's the last day for voting on the CBC Searchlight competition that the League of Wolves is entered in. So, hopefully you voted.
As you were telling me before, how many artists in total did the contest begin with?
3,333 artists from 23
3,333.
And they made the top 10 in our region, in the Saskatchewan.
Well, they made the top
230
in Saskatchewan?
in Canada.
In Canada,
top
yeah.
10 in Canada, top 230 in...
Top 10 in Saskatchewan, top 230 in Canada.
That's what I said.
You said the opposite.
You're not saying.
Well, rewatch the tapes, and we'll see who's correct.
Anyway, if they went today, the fan votes are over. That's it. We are on to
Just judges.
Just
entirely
judging.
Yeah.
So obviously they're the superior musical act, and they should have no problem sweeping the championship around.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to agree.
We've been feverishly voting. Brad has been feverishly voting every single day on every single device he owns.
On different browsers.
So, I mean, the dedication is there. We just need to see some.
It's ridiculous how many people I've talked to and said, like, hey, you should vote for League of Wolves. And they say, I vote every day. I vote every day.
That's awesome.
Every morning, Swade has an alarm, and it wakes up, and then he votes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know there's lots of people. I know a lot of people in Ontario, friends that I have are voting as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I specifically mentioned to a bunch of people they should keep voting. And
now, Andrew had found some statistic thing the other day. Not a statistic thing. Essentially, his web browser had said how many shares the page had, I guess.
Yeah, it's not on the web, though. It's just on the mobile that I can see that, because I can't see it.
I couldn't find it anywhere, but I saw it. So I had thought it meant, because it was some ridiculous number, like 91,000, so I'd assumed that it was for the entire competition.
It must be.
But no, because you open a different page with a different bat, and it was only 1,500.
They've got 307 plays on here. I don't know what that really even means, but...
See, the voting, I read through all the rules, and the voting will never be made public. So they could just rig it.
Maybe that's just some weird glitch in the system that I found or something.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. I'm sure CBC doesn't have the most up-to-date, top-notch, secure web browsing website. But I saw the ad for Searchlight on the CBC broadcast of the Montreal and Ottawa hockey game, so that was kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a big deal. If they win, it would be very big. So even if they could
For
just
us
make it
even
over the
too,
province, yeah, it's huge for us as well.
Because we've done all of their video content to date. Well, aside from one thing in a couple, there's like bamboo shoots at Regina did something for them or something.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Not worth mentioning. Anyway, so that would be really nice if they could win that. Also, tomorrow, the broadcast province-wide of Concert in the Middle of Nowhere, which is pretty cool. We filmed that out in Brock. Talked about that in quite a few different podcasts. We actually filmed podcasts on the way there and back.
When did we film that? Was that...
That was for the...
October of last year.
November. First week of November of last year.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, because, it was Remembrance Day. I remember her saying that.
Yeah, it was
It was coming up to Remembrance Day, so everyone had their poppies, and she had to respectfully ask, because she didn't want it to be dated, now that we've already dated it, but didn't want it to be dated, so she asked people to respectfully remove their poppies just because...
For filming
purposes. But
which was fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, but like if you took that out of context, it would be pretty...
She hates veterans, let's be honest with that. Not a military supporter, neither am I.
If we're getting right down to brass tacks.
Anyway, so that'll be pretty cool. I can't seem to find the local access channel on my dish, which makes me a little upset because I would like to see the broadcast of it.
We'll also be posting it on our Facebook. We'll post it to Prehistoric Productions.
So it'll be our first
first full length anything really to get on to be broadcast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
So far, I mean, that's
Yeah.
good start, I would say.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's almost it's like 40 some minutes long with commercials. It'll fill out the full hour block. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Really happy with how it turned out. I think the interviews, like we were discussing with dinner, Francois and I, because he was too much of a pussy to come out. But Francois and I were discussing with Heather that she was skeptical about the interviews at first, and like with her, and if they would fit or if it would just kind of break up the music too much. But I really feel that after it's all said and done, that it really just ties everything together really nicely. And
Well, it gives you some context.
I was gonna say,
exactly, gives you context.
what Andrew's talking about right now is in the actual concert video. We there were 3 different bands that played at Brock that night, and to just sort of like Brad said, to give it some context, and to I almost want to say give it a figure to root for, like a protagonist almost, somebody to hold the glue to hold the whole thing together. We had gone. Was it after? It was after the concert that we went. After the concert was over, after we filmed already, we went to Brock again, and we just shot a short interview with Heather. I don't think it's any longer than we were filming for any
25
longer
minutes,
than 20 minutes, and we just asked her essentially about the history of her venue, the church, and kind of what work she put in to get it going in its current state. So I mean, it grounds the video. It gives you context. It kind of fleshes out why that concert video exists in the first place.
And I overall, I mean, that's a style that a lot of people have followed, and I like it a lot. You know, it makes you care. It's like it's not just bands playing music.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a story behind it. It's kind of nice.
Well, I mean, the other thing is we're filming at this largely unknown location, so it's not like it's this storied location that everyone knows.
Not like
knows
the
about.
Memphis concert hall.
Yeah, not exactly. So it kind of gives you, like you said, some context, gives you a reason to actually check this place out in the future. Because I mean, that's the ultimate goal of filming this concert, was to bring attention to the church. And
I like the way we
get
went with
people
it.
out
At
there.
first, when Heather had mentioned it,
yeah,
we had thought more of an idea for like a promo video for the place, like kind of talk about the place a little bit and get some nice flashy shots.
like a 5-minute kind of
But I mean, this thing turned out well.
I don't know. I'm very happy with it. I always say my toughest critic. Well, I mean, at this point in the game, we're still pretty early on, but my toughest critics / my best critics are my parents. I would always say, and so they're always very, very honest with me. They'll always tell me straight up if something I do is good or if it's bad or if it needs a second look. And they really enjoyed the Brock video, which made
Did
me
they
happy.
see the whole thing?
Most of it, or they might have watched the whole thing. I watched some of it with them, but
Okay.
yeah, they quite enjoyed it. And
Well, that's good.
My dad said it was, my father especially, he said it was good, which made me happy. If they give this a seal of approval, then I'm happy with it.
I've just got to get my parents to even watch anything I've made. That would be awesome.
the thing is that
Or my girlfriend, any of the important people in my life, really, if they could just watch even for just about a
Just
moment.
like support, like just
Just
that
moment.
bare,
not even really watch, but like just hit like share
Or just an individual
You know, like-
frame
like that bare minimum of support, like absolute, like any amount of support
by anyone.
would be great.
like there's that button. It's like I think it's share maybe.
I don't know. I can't begin
That's
to
the one
even.
I think. I don't know.
I don't have a.
But what you can look forward to is when we do take off and we have some amount of success, that they will be there to come and ride the success that you
yeah.
have garnered.
Absolutely.
claim some of the glory.
Yeah, they
We
will
were
be
there.
there for that.
They
So
will.
that's good.
Yeah, no, it's important that I don't blame people, honestly, because I don't have a degree in computer science, so there's no way that I could in any way assist in creating something viral, because the only way a video gets viral is if a group of computer scientists develop a video and then they use their internet skills to pass that information along through the cyber web.
Yes.
Well,
So the web
or
space.
one of those like, it's like viral link, and it's they catch it and they put some title this girl walking down the street. You won't believe what happens next.
No, but to be able to program that kind of text in to
I
the
see what you're
network.
Into the network, it's like you have to have studied computer science for many years.
And so, like, be very versed in
Because-
social media marketing and
Ultimately,
Well,
for a lot of you who
marketing,
don't
social
know, that information travels down a series of wires and cords and hoses.
Tubes, vacuum tubes.
Vacuum tubes. So for anybody to be able to, I can put information at the end of the hose, but I can't
And this
make
is
it
just
drink.
from what we understand.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
our
very basic knowledge. I can put information in the hose, but I can't make it drink.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It's got to be forced in. And I've tried. I put a thumb drive into a 1-inch hose, and then sealed the end on, and then put an air compressor hose on, and tried to blast it through. But again, like I said,
it's like you're not a computer. You're not a computer.
it took
scientist.
code. It's coding and stuff like that.
So the thing is, like, our your parents are right. At the end of the day, it's like this business just can't be frugal because you have to have a storied knowledge of computer science.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't, then there's no way that you can make a funny video. It's just not
Impossible.
It's not feasible. Really,
People have tried like that Facebook and Snapshoot on your on
Yeah, they
mobile
tried.
phones.
Failed miserably. I heard.
On mobile phone there.
It just didn't work. They just didn't get the coding. Was the thing.
It's source code.
Yeah, they just didn't understand
Ultimately. We're not the Chinese government, which brings me into our next topic.
the Chinese government.
This morning I watched a PBS documentary on the People's Republic of China and the economics of the People's Republic of China. Quite interesting. But the point that I wanted to bring from that was essentially the documentary was just like Chinese communists are bad. They're flooding the American market with products that they don't have to. Like the whole thing was like American producers can't create anything equal because we have to pay minimum wage and we have to pollution. It's like the Chinese just pollute, and they like if workers die, they just drag them into a pit and light them on fire so they can cut their costs a lot lower so they can undercut the American product. One of two things I thought of. Number one, happy we live where we do because our economy is largely resource based, and you can't mine Saskatchewan potash from Shanghai, China. Like they could try, but they can't do it.
well, no,
You can't outsource natural resources.
no. I mean, the only thing they can do is
Buy.
own it, but then they still have to adhere to Canadian standards and
But they don't.
Canadian
Yeah.
workers and all that. Like they have to have all the Canadian. Yeah, I'm sorry. I understand.
The other thing, so the other major thing that I thought of is whenever Canadians have such a unique perspective on subjects like climate change and global economics and geopolitics in the Western world, because Europe is very isolated, ultimately, in the way that everyone's like Europe has their own culture and Europe has their own standards, and there's all these like it's like Europe does this is how Europe works. You know what I mean? And ultimately, that usually ends on the western end of Poland, where it's like that. This is where real Europe is, and not the rest of it.
That's Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
Eastern
it's-
Europe.
It's almost its own.
Yeah, it's like that's where the poor people live that separate us from Asia.
No, Eurotrip. The movie had it perfectly. Have you guys seen Eurotrip?
Yeah, where they
the
go.
part where they
it's
go
like
to Eastern
5
Europe.
cents.
What's I can't remember what.
I think
city
it's
they-
a made up.
Yeah, some made up country. Oh,
It's
it-
less
that-
like-
Just supposed to represent all
of Eastern Europe, and there's like there's a dog just like they're driving through the streets, and it's like all these communist buildings that look exactly the same, and like just there's no grass or anything, just dirt, and they're driving down the street, and then there's a dog just standing in the street with like a human foot in its mouth.
Yeah.
I love that they get there and it's like I only have $1.15. That just cuts this penthouse suite. They're bringing in a feast. He flips the guy a nickel. He's like, "Oh, a nickel!" Then he goes to his boss and just slaps him across the face.
Like, I'm buying my own hotel.
I'm buying my own hotel.
So, and we border the United States, so we kind of get their perspective, but we always get their content. So it's like American kids are dying from whatever this and that, and the American healthcare system's going to shit. And people like Thomas Renwick watch these documentaries and go, "Oh my God, like we're going to hell in a handbasket," because everyone just always equates America with Canada. Like our standards for most things are completely different, and like our shipping laws are different, and our free trade agreements are completely
The
different.
thing that pisses me off the most is that people talk about dairy and dairy products. Now there's all those hormones and antibiotics in dairy products, and it's yes, in the United States that's true, but in Canada we adhere to different standards.
Yeah, like so.
Like most farmers in Canada don't.
Like it's like like Americans are like, they make a documentary, like, you need to go recycle now. And I'm like standing under the sink, and I'm like, oh my God, he's right. Like, we're polluting this planet. I turn on the tap, rinse my can out, and just put it in the recycling bin. I'm like, we need to start recycling because we're not doing it. But like here, things like that are so second nature. Where it's like we've had
a recycling program, like a recycling pickup, like garbage.
For a long time. And yes, Canada does have a bit of a problem with our carbon footprint. I'm not going to say we're better than the United States, but we often just immediately equate their issues with our issues because we're so close.
And it's different. It's a totally different, especially with culture. I think in Canada we really get the shit end of the stick because we don't have a lot of stuff that really showcases the Canadian identity. And typically when people hear, oh, it's Canadian, it's a Canadian movie, Canadian whatever, they immediately assume it's going to be lower quality, it's going to be boring, it's going to be just not worth their time. And that's really unfortunate because I might be a little bit biased, seeing as we're a Canadian production company producing Canadian content, but I think that that's just not true. I think that it's important for us as Canadians to support Canadian content, not just blindly because it's Canadian, obviously, but it's really important.
Is garbage Canadian content.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's also a fuck ton of garbage American content.
Well, exactly. And I think that there's really a kind of sad potential for us to kind of lose our identity, our Canadian identity, in everything being just kind of absorbed by America. All of our
I hate to pin this on. This always happens, right? So we have this negative thing happen, and then we always like pin it on people who like have money and power. It's like, you need to do something about this because you have influence.
Yeah.
But where are you, Jim Carrey? Like, we could use you, bud. Jesus. And like,
he's too busy fighting. He's too busy fighting immunizations and vaccines because it causes autism in children.
Like, I love. Like, I see anything that's like,
he's supporting things that are important and that matter.
Top 10 Canadian anything, I will click on it. For me, that's clickbait.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, these celebrities are Canadian, but some of them just use it to gain a Canadian fan base by total, just purely by association and not at all by doing anything Canadian.
Like Dragon's Den. I hate that. It's like, this is a Canadian show for Canadian entrepreneurs. Like, 2 of the dragons actually even live in Canada.
Yeah.
Jim Treliving, he's in Canada to film the show.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, he has a penthouse in Calgary that he never goes to. Like, it's quite dusty because he's never in there. And, like, I know, I can't speak from experience because I've never bought a house in LA and lived with all my American celebrity friends and then been like, oh, we should go back to Canada and do something there. But where are you, Seth? Like,
no, as we got Jay Baruchel.
He is like, he's
super hyper, like, he's proud to be Canadian. He likes being involved in Canadian content.
That tattoo that he has in Locked, it's a real,
Canadian.
I believe it's a real tattoo.
It is, no, it's 100%.
What does it say?
It's
just a maple leaf.
Oh.
No, nobody is too rah-rah to be hyper.
Ryan Reynolds, he's...
he's Canadian, but he's not...
He's not like, we need to do stuff for Canada.
I saw him in a Canadian commercial once. That was like a Canada-wide commercial, and he was just in it. But it's like, that's...
Like, I'd like to believe if we were in that position, I would be like approaching people like, I'd like to be in your commercial for free because it's Canadian.
It's just like you think they would take on more Canadian projects. Like, they're not going to be paid as much, or they're not.
Like, that's the thing.
But they're just doing it because they're proud of their country and they like to support their country's media.
I'm not gonna be part of a bunch of shit. But there's a lot of unknown, really good Canadian stuff that they could just. It's like, I want to put my name on that, or I'll throw $1,000 your way, or I'll appear in one of the episodes.
Well, I mean, look at Trailer Park Boys is a great example, because if you look at the first couple seasons, it's super obvious that they're in Canada. It's like there's like all this hyper Canadian stuff going on, and later on, it's not that they lose it, they lose that Canadian identity, but they make things a little bit more ambiguous to appeal to an American audience.
See, that I don't dislike.
I don't dislike it. I'm just saying, like, as they got more successful, they almost had to kind of
branch out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not about My thing about A-list Canadian celebrities in the United States is that if Ryan Reynolds appears on a Canadian show, nobody goes, oh my God, that's a Canadian on a Canadian show. And that guy goes, oh my God, Ryan Reynolds did something in Canada? Who cares about Canada? Like, Americans don't even know when Canadian celebrities are Canadian. Like, I bet you could probably pull 100,000 average Americans, and I bet less than 20% of them know that Eugene Levy is Canadian. Yeah. Like, he's an American Pie guy. America, 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 America.
Yeah. No, he's super
I think
exact opposite.
One, I had this discussion. I don't know if it was with you guys or if it was with my parents or somebody that I had this discussion because I often find myself defending my particular brand of humor because I really enjoy dark humor. We all do. South Park and Trailer Park Boys. We like dark stuff. And so anyways, but my parents don't like that kind of stuff. And I've had a lot of friends who don't like that kind of stuff. So I found myself kind of defending that sort of humor. And a sort of comment I've heard often is like, especially with some of my friends who consider themselves to be quite intellectual and well-versed and studied and well-read people, is they think it's stupid. They think it's idiot humor, essentially.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me because, I mean, like, if you get past that, like, the face value, yes, it's about, like, the show is about rednecks in trailer park, talking about Trailer Park Boys specifically. But you get through that and you start to appreciate the comedic timing and the writing and the character development and all the stuff. It's like, yes, baseline, it is about these imbeciles. But it's like there's this whole other layer. It's like Trailer Park Boys to me is an example, and Fubar is another one of Canadian content, which to me is 1,000 times better than almost every single American comedy show I've ever seen. It's more well written. It's funnier. It hits harder. It's like the jokes are more consistent. It's funnier most of the time. You can watch it like it. To me, it's like art. It's like I just think that Canadian comedy is better. I think that we are funnier as a nation. We get subtlety better. It's like British humor. I love British humor too. It's true. Like we get subtlety. We get. It's like it's not just blatant knock jokes and like fart jokes. It's not. There's a deeper level.
It's not just Family Guy humor, basically.
Yeah, there's a deeper level there. It's got awkwardness to it. It's got social societal quirks that are real. That it's like we pick up on.
That's the thing. I don't think Americans really.
And so, but this is what I've noticed about American comedy specifically, is that and I always like to equate us as Canada. It's like. Two countries I like to think about, especially when it comes to comedy, is like we in New Zealand, if you watch our content, it's like, it's different, but it's very similar. Yeah. And then if you look at Australian content, you look at American content, that is also has a similarity. And it's like, Australia, because I mean, it is kind of true that New Zealand to Australia is what Canada is to the United States. It's like we're the dumb brother from or like whatever people say. It's like the retarded brother from the north or whatever. Yeah. But, anyways, it's like, and one thing I've noticed is that American content specifically, they're very all about making fun of people. And it's like to get laughs, they have to make fun of something. It's like American content always needs to have something at the butt of their joke. It's like Americans have to be awesome in American content, and then everyone else has to be at the butt end of a joke. It's like everything else is shit and America's good, and that is American content, and that is the only American content that's produced. American content is never self-referential that America is bad,
or if it is judgmental of something in an American, it's a personal thing. Like our president is bad because of this personal issue. It's this one aspect that it's like then the Americans can all come together and be like, oh yeah, and then blame. It's blaming and it's making fun of things always. It's never. And whereas Canadian content, New Zealand content, it's all about finding those quirks in their own nation, in their own people, and finding those little things that, because you said it's like we struggle to find identity, but it's like we're so good at, like we're starting to do it. It's like we're finding things that we identify with, that things that are specific to us as Canadians, and the same with the New Zealanders. Because I mean, like people, you look at New Zealand, you look at Australia, and a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But New Zealanders have carved out their own identity now. So you look at shows like Fly the Conchords. Or I guess that's the best thing. But I mean, Short Poppies is another show that was recently on. Wilfred's Australian, but I mean, like the comedy there's finding its own identity. We're finding our own identity, and I feel like it's better because we're
we're able to laugh at ourselves. We're able to point at ourselves and be like, there's this funny stuff that we do. We have these funny little quirks, and we don't feel the need to tear down other people. And it's like, that's what I don't like about American content, is it just ends up feeling dickish. And it's like, yes, we get it. Americans are fucking awesome. Yes, we get it for the millionth time. Americans are so great. They're so great. They're so great. We get it.
There is something to using that, like, for lack of a better term, making fun of people. There is something to doing that, but doing it with some subtlety, doing it with some timing, as opposed to just kind of relying on it like a crutch.
And exactly.
It's like peppered in there.
That's exactly. That's good. It's like
totally
I don't mind. I think South Park, that show is. Yeah. That's all they do is make fun of people, and I love South Park. But I mean, like you said, it's like if it's peppered in and it's done well, then it's fun. But it's like American content, quite literally, that's just what it is.
See, that's the thing.
They don't have that at all.
Colbert and Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, actually, Rick Mercer and Stephen Colbert would actually be a great thing to compare, to look at them as a case study, but because they're very similar in what they represent for each country. But Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, hilarious guys. They're very, very funny. A lot of the time, I feel like on their shows, it's like hold the foot in the brake, hold the gas, the brake, gas, the brake, gas, the brake. It's like, all right, preemptive, punchline, go. It's like the punchline. It's all about like, now it's funny. Ha 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 ha. Get ready, punchline again. Everything's got to be big hitting, swinging for the fences.
One sec. Recording. And go.
Anyway, so like I was saying, it's preamp, punchline, opposed to, like you said with Canadian humor, it's subtlety and being able to look at our own things and laugh. And it's interesting. I have a lot of problem. I feel like there's two types of Canadians. There's kind of this authentic, we are the North, like we love Canada, and then there's like fucking Toronto, where we want to be in America, or Vancouver, where some of the people are like, we're just here until we're in LA. Like, that's what I'm waiting for. Yeah. Like, it's like, this is just a stepping stone, and then I can become an American citizen. I get the hell out of this fuckhole. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I like about Trailer Park Boys. I watched an episode, or not an episode. There was like a behind the scenes kind of thing. We went behind Ricky and Julian after the Showcase series ended, and kind of just talked about like what they were doing now, and they were like doing charity events and shit like that. And it talked about like the connection with Sebastian Bach, and Sebastian Bach is a Canadian, but the music scene in Canada especially has really been lacking for 30 years. Like, besides your little one hits, but like that whole part of music movement that he was in was very American. Mm-hmm. So he identified with Americans, but he came back and he's like, I fucking miss Canada so much. And like, he came home and he's like, started doing stuff with Trailer Park Boys, reconnect with his family, and he's like, I fucking love it here. And now he's moved here permanently, and he loves being in Canada and helping support it. Mm-hmm. And he's not like a super A-list guy, but it's
still nice to see.
It's one of those people where he has power, and like total nostalgia power. Like, it's like, oh my God, Skid Row. I used to wear jean jackets and listen to you so hard. I love you. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about him anymore. Mm-hmm. He's not a prevalent member of the spotlight.
No.
But it's something that he could still be part of. And who else has been on for Canadians?
I mean, Rush making their resurgence in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It is really cool. I agree.
It's really awesome. I mean, they obviously were ridiculously talented and deserved to have that happen when they were in their prime. Yeah. But because they would also not go out and party, they are still able to play all their music and do so very well. Mm-hmm. So it's good for them that they've been able to maintain that.
And I like their whole I feel like the Trailer Park Boys kind of do what I would do if I was in their position, somewhat. I mean, not everything they do is gold, or I'm not saying that I have the same foresight as they do necessarily, but they do. It's like they're the kind of guys where you sit down with your buddies after you watch a piece of their content and go, oh my God, can you imagine if this happened? And everyone's thinking to themselves like, well, that's way too good to be true, but that would be so sick. And it's like, oh my God, they did it. Like, that, they went ahead and did it. Yeah. Which is unreal.
No, they're definitely... Another thing I love about Canadian content, especially when it comes to us starting this independent film company and trying to get this off the ground, is a lot of this Canadian comedy that we really appreciate, like Trailer Park Boys and Fubar. That's how they started. It's like they didn't have a lot of money. They were separate from the studio system. I think Showcase funded Trailer Park Boys after, but I think they submitted like a pilot episode, whatever.
Mm.
Anyways, it's largely guys who just have a funny idea in Canada, and then they don't want to have to go to the States to get their thing made. And then they write something and they make something really funny, and then it ends up working out. So it's really inspiring. And I kind of want to give a shout out to one of my favorite directors, Kevin Smith, because he's not Canadian, but he's somebody who has always been like a very vocal supporter of Canada, and he's always said, it's like, if I could be Canadian, I would be Canadian. He's like, I would much rather be Canadian than be American. I love Canadians.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, which I really appreciate. And I mean, if you watch Clerks or if you watch anything, you can always get those. So he always has the hockey, like the super strong hockey influence in all his movies, and you can see that. And most recently, he's now filming, because Kevin Smith is another guy who's super inspiring for me, because he had early success. I mean, for those of you who don't know, he went to Vancouver Film School like I did, which is kind of neat, and then he dropped out after half a year because he was writing Clerks, and he from his words, he said that essentially he had learned the skills he needed to make the movie. He didn't need to learn anything more. So he left. He finished writing Clerks. He made Clerks, screened at film festival, and then he had early success with Clerks. It caught on. Miramax bought it, and they distributed it. And then ever since then, his budgets have steadily been increasing, and he's been making bigger and bigger movies, which kind of peaked with Cop Out, which was his big studio picture, which just didn't do very well financially. It has funny sequences. It's just not it's just not Kevin Smith, really, if you just watch it. It's like everything previous to that, very Kevin Smith, and you get his style, and it's his work, and it's his baby. And then you see Cop Out, it just doesn't feel the same. And I mean, I largely blame, because I did read...
Is the title ironic?
Cop Out? Yeah, it was supposed to be a couple, like, I can't remember. It was a couple of dicks, I think, was supposed to be the title.
The title was supposed to be just a couple of cop suckers.
Yeah, right. And then Cop Out was Cock Out or whatever. But anyways, they had to change it. But I largely, because I read one of Kevin Smith's sort of autobiographical books that he has. He has a couple, and in it he largely blames that movie's, like, why it sucked was because of Bruce Willis, and because he's such a dick in real life, and he's just apparently the worst person to work with. But anyways, after that movie, Kevin Smith decided that he was going to essentially just stop with the studio system, and he was just done with that, and he was going to self-fund movies and make independent projects again. And then in addition to that, he strayed away from comedy, and he decided to go into horror. And I've just the past few years we've been talking about this in previous podcasts. It's like I'm a massive horror fan now. I'm just loving the genre. And so we made Red State, which was sort of like a horror movie about essentially like a Westboro Baptist Church type deal in the United States. And then recently he made Tusk, which I adored. It's really a unique horror movie that that could only be made independently. Like, an idea like that would never happen in a studio system. It's such a crazy, wild, out there idea that just works so well as a horror movie, because it's so horrifying. But anyway, so yeah, but speaking of Tusk, getting back to the Canadian thing, went on a tangent. He is doing what he's calling the Great White North trilogy, where he's doing three horror films. I don't know if they're necessarily horror, but anyways, all three of them are set in Canada, and it started with Tusk, and the next one's going to be called Yoga Hosers, which is about, I don't know, something to do with yoga and Canadians. And so we even have these really influential, so just to speak to how unique Canadian humor is and how excellent our own personal identity is in the creative world, we even have these renowned comedy directors like Kevin Smith who have paid attention, who have noticed how awesome we are as Canadians and our identity, and how unique we are and what we have to offer, and they're coming to make content here because it's better.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, the diverse locations that we've got in even
Yeah.
even just in Saskatchewan, for example, it just provides a lot of flexibility for
A lot
film,
cheaper.
a lot cheaper.
That's the thing.
So many reasons, like practically why you'd want to do it, but then like as we've been talking about,
Thematically.
just moral, like not morally. That's a little bit getting a little bit high and mighty, but
The atmosphere.
the atmosphere,
I would
exactly.
honestly say, because it's like you were saying before with Vancouver, it's a bunch of people. You were saying it's like a bunch of people who just want to. They're like, we're just here until we can get something in LA, and then we're out of here. And I would largely agree with that. I spent that time in Vancouver, and it's like I had a lot of friends. I made a lot of really good friends there, but it's like there were a lot of people who just they didn't have any interest in. They just wanted to be in the film industry to be in the film industry. There wasn't like a creative drive there. It was just like
more so.
I want to be in the industry of it. I want to be in like I don't want to say gears and wheels and metal things and robots, and it's like they wanted to be in the
Like it's almost like they doing it to say that I've made it. I'm here and I've made it.
Essentially, yeah.
As opposed to I love what I'm doing.
I asked some of my friends one time. It's like I said, would you rather direct your own? Like let's say tomorrow, would you rather direct your own $10,000 film? Like you just got $10,000, you direct your own film, or would you rather be a grip on the next Planet of the Apes movie? And almost all of them were like, I'd rather be a grip on a Planet of the Apes movie. And I'm like, that blows my fucking mind that you would say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you saying that these people want to go to LA, it's really true. And it's like the reason I came back to Saskatchewan is because it's just that's an atmosphere that I just couldn't. It was creatively, it was just sapping. It was like you. Here, it's like when we want to make a film or one of us has a funny idea. It's like let's grab a camera and let's get stuff together, and then we'll just do it. But in Vancouver, it was so difficult. It's like everything had to go through the proper. Pathways. It's like the paperwork all had to be there, and we had to have the right cameras, and we had to have the right people who were trained on those cameras. Like people weren't, they didn't want to experiment, and they didn't want to like just do spontaneous stuff. And it's like I feel like in this industry, it's like spontaneity is important, and it's like you have to just be willing to just go do it already. You can't just be waiting for the perfect opportunity and everything to line up perfectly. It's like you eventually, at one point, you just have to pick up a camera and you have to start filming something, and then hope to God it's good. But that's just an attitude. And some people, I'm generalizing now, and it's bad that I'm saying this. Like there are people in Vancouver that I have a lot of friends who are extremely talented, and they will do very well.
That's the thing. It's not
for
like
themselves.
a lack of talent.
It's I will say
It's a mindset.
I will say it's the atmosphere. Is much different. It's like here I feel like we're trying to accomplish something, and it's like we have support, and it's like in Saskatchewan, it's like we're trying to grow. And especially in Saskatchewan, we have such an awesome atmosphere when it comes to small businesses and people wanting to like get the economy going. And it's like our economy's growing, and it's like our population is growing, and it's like small businesses, let's support them. And it's just this really awesome atmosphere we have here that you just don't find on the West Coast, in my experience.
And I think what's kind of unique about Canada is that usually when you talk about patriotism, nationalism, or regionalism, it's a bad thing that divides people. But in Canada, I think it's like just all the good things about being about regionalism. Like people in Saskatchewan, they love Saskatchewan. They love Saskatchewan. It's like just Saskatchewan, and anything that has that kind of it's almost a brand. I want to say.
Yeah, it's very true.
It very is almost a brand. Anything that has that brand attached to it, they immediately become interested in it. For the most part, obviously generalizing. And I think that there's something really special about that. Like you were just saying, it's totally different. Atmosphere.
It's not the American like we're better than you. It's we're awesome, and that's good.
That's like we're awesome. You can be awesome too. Let's all be awesome together and watch each other's stuff. And it would be awesome if we just did that. But then it's like in the United States, they just have small dick syndrome. For some, I don't know why. They need a massive military. They need lots of money, and they need monuments, and they need the biggest cities, and they need the...
Trey Parker and Matt Stone just hit the nail on the head with Team America. America, fuck yeah. It's like coming to save the motherfucking day, yeah. Like that is America to a T.
It's just, I don't know where in the line that it's like America, because at some point, Americans shifted, because I mean, like, America was created with the greatest intentions. It's like a land for the free. It's like people here.
I think at one point it shifted from America to
Merc. And it's like, at one point it's like, we just, here's land. It was the land of opportunity, the land of freedom. It's somewhere where if you worked hard enough, you could achieve something great for yourself. And it's become now, stand your ground. We need to kill everyone else who's not American.
That's white too.
It became an issue of.
That's what Americans are saying.
It became an issue of.
Right?
It went from individual freedom and opportunity to we are morally right and superior.
Justification.
And we're better now, and everyone has to do what we do because we're better than you. And it's like it went from essentially choice to it's like you don't have a choice now. Now it's like America is it. Like
that is.
It's become bigger than what it's originally intended.
It's essentially become a religion where it's like you're either American or you're a communist.
And we do generalize
Nazi.
a lot.
Well,
But
obviously, I mean, there's assholes wherever you go.
there are a lot of shitty Canadian people, but I just think we're on the whole not as shitty.
Yeah, on the whole, preparation age does feel
It
good.
does feel good. There's another. Actually, Mike Myers is pretty good about Canada rah rah.
He is. He's he very much so. I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also not really super in the spotlight anymore.
No.
I mean, there was rumors. I think it's still filming the new Austin Powers.
God, I hope so. I just want one more, then I'm happy.
Yeah, one more.
That's what we always say.
Entirely from. Apparently, the last thing I heard was that it was entirely from Dr. Evil's perspective.
God, I hope so.
That'd be funny.
I think that's a different.
Anyway, another thing, you were talking Tusk a lot earlier, but I did want to bring up Epic Meal Time.
Oh yeah.
Another great Canadian group, and they've worked with Trailer Park Boys,
They've worked
and
with like everybody.
they've
now.
worked with pretty much everyone.
Yeah,
So like that's pretty cool. The idea
I think
ran aground eventually.
Well, I think that they leveraged it into something more than it was worth. To be honest, like that was an idea that had a very short shelf life.
And they did it.
They went fucking balls out, balls to the walls, and did everything they could with it. I really think it's come to a point where it's just uninteresting. But I guess they still have an audience somehow. I don't know how they do.
I think a big thing with them is as a company, yeah, you have that one hit, right? But it's like you have to be willing to grow and evolve and like change and adapt. And it's like you have to be interesting, you have to be changing, ever changing. It's like the perfect example of a company that it's like they were successful, they had a one hit, and then they keep evolving, they keep growing. Rooster Teeth, I am the biggest advocate, but I mean, it's like, look at them. It's like they had their success with Red vs. Blue, and they did that for 3 years, just that, and then they branched off. And it's like, let's start doing gameplay videos, and then they branched off again, and they started doing podcasts. And
That's
they started
the thing.
doing
I don't understand
short
why
films.
everyone
It's like
doesn't do that.
That's what I'm saying. It's like now, 12 years in, they're about to release their first feature film. It's like that. It's such an awesome natural progression. It makes so much sense when you look at it. It's like, of course, you start with small things, you make a little bit of money, and then eventually you just keep growing bigger. But it's like you look at Epic Mealtime, and they're like, okay, we make money, but we're just going to stay stagnant and just keep producing the same content.
Like, go on Netflix.com/bacon. Again.
It's also like every epic. Look at all this bacon. Look at all these girls.
It's like,
Epic Mealtime. Bacon.
It's like it was funny the
it
first
was
20
it's
times.
still kind of funny, but it's
Not
just
enough for me to like. Before when it first came out, I subscribed to them, and every time, oh my gosh, there's a new Epic Mealtime.
I
What are they
own
gonna do?
3 Epic Mealtime
Yeah.
shirts. Like,
Like,
I
what are they going
loved
to do?
it.
What are they going to do next? And then around, what was the thing? The thing they did that thing they did with FPS Russia, the meat suit, where it was just they just dressed like mannequins up with uncooked meat, and then FPS Russia just came in and shot them. And it was just why it totally turned me off of the whole thing. I just stopped watching after that. I couldn't. It just, to me, that was a sign that they were not doing anything new or worthwhile.
I think like a show like that, top 50 episodes, like that's max. You're gonna get anything out of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like for us, if we had a video with 1.1 million views, I would go absolutely nuts. But they just released videos that are garbage, and they still get 1 million views.
Yeah,
Because
it's
they
like
built such a brand.
yeah, it's like they just do. Eventually, you build a core fan base that they will literally watch. They will worship the ground you walk on. You can do anything. It's like me, and I've said this many times with Peter Jackson. He could literally take a shit, put it in a theater, say, this is my next film, and I would sit down and say, this is the best movie I've seen this year.
Yeah.
I would just do that. It's like I just worship the ground. I'm just totally biased. It's just you do have crazy fans who will just love anything you do. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I mean they deserve some of that obviously because the idea was hilarious.
It was a great
And
idea.
they exploded quick and they didn't let the momentum. So you have in my mind you have the three groups.
They did like the thing is what they did right was the merchandising, like the Epic Mealtime cookbook and like obviously their shirts and that kind of thing. But I think, like we've said, the idea just
Some people are just unprepared, right? So, okay, I think you got four types of people. You have us, where it's like small people, and I think that if we had a video that hit, we would have some sort of plan in place to take that to the next level. We have a group like, apparently Letterkenny's doing stuff now, but Letterkenny, where it's like absolutely explodes, at least from a regional or national standpoint, and then just
drop off
let
the
it
face of the
fizzle
earth.
out.
Yeah.
So they did a second video and a third video. And then you have groups like Epic Mealtime where it's like it exploded and they're like, okay, let's do some stuff with it. And it's like, we'll just wear this one out until it's done. And then you have Rooster Teeth where it's like so calculated.
And illogical. It makes just sense. It's like they're like, okay, what's the next thing we can do? We have a little bit more money now. What can we do with a little bit more money? And they've just got creative people on their team that just they want to keep doing new stuff. And they like it's like I love Harley Morgenstein. I really do. I think he's hilarious. His beard's incredible. But it just seems like I think maybe magnificent. I think maybe in real life, he's probably a funny guy, really nice guy. But it's like maybe he's creatively stagnant. Like it's like he just doesn't like comedy cooking. Great idea. What they should have done is they should have tried to shoot a deal with the Food Network and had a show, and then have like a half an hour show that was just comedy cooking, and because it's like that still doesn't really exist. There's no show that's comedy cooking.
No.
So I mean that's still a good idea I think for like Food Network.
I think it's also really easy.
You can invite
easy
ridiculous celebrities on and cook ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's also really easy to get stagnant when it's like you just like you said, you just put out whatever. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna like drape some sausages over a mannequin and have this guy who has his own fan base just shoot them, and then it gets like 5+ million views, and then you collect all the money from that, and then on top of that, you have hundreds of thousands of people buying your merchandise at $20 a pop. So when you're doing with that kind of money, it's pretty easy to just be like, I think I'm gonna just keep doing.
See, that's the other thing that I don't think. I guess we think of now because we're part of it, but I didn't think of before. There's a lot to do in that growth sector with like having the right elements and the due diligence behind it, where it's like, yes, it's like, hey, do you have good creative ideas? Yes. Can you create more creative ideas? Yes. But there's a lot of like fucking organizing stuff and meeting the right people and stuff that you could be creative as all hell, but if you don't know how to keep your desktop organized, maybe you're fucked, or you don't have, you know what I mean? You get into some sort of legal trouble or something.
You know what a great example of that is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, looking at the progression of that show. And how it originally happened was the three creators, the guy who plays Mac, Dennis, and Charlie, they had written a couple of funny scenarios about guys, and they filmed it on their little a little shitty camcorder. They filmed these scenes. It was basically entirely they were hoping to basically sell their acting and writing ability.
Yeah.
And from there, they went with that, I think it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes worth of scenes. Went in and pitched the show to FX, the Fox, the independent Fox network kind of thing. And from there, they talk about how the first couple seasons, Fox is like, okay, what do you need? Like, what kind of budget do you need? And they don't we've never done this. Like, what do you mean budget?
Yeah, exactly.
Lighting, and we never have really done lighting. What do you mean you need lighting? Like that kind of thing. And the progression, like the show is still great, right? Like it's still a fantastic show, but you just watch the production value just increase as the seasons increase. And it's just fantastic to watch something that went from home video cameras to powerhouse show that has millions of viewers.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch that. And you need like a team of people, and like there's so much that goes into it. Like it's not all just about setting up a camera and setting up lights and then filming it. But it's also not just about meeting people and doing stuff. And it's not just about making money. Like, it's all these elements that have to come
Combined.
together.
Yeah.
All these moving parts that need to.
Like, I look at photography, and sorry, photographers, there's lots of talented people that are in photography, but compared to what we do, from what I see, it's fairly simple by comparison.
Well, of course, because I mean, like, photography is such an interesting.
Everybody's a
but I would also say that photography is like, our industry is competitive. I would say that photography is
Way
1,000 times more
Oh, yeah.
competitive. If
Come
you
on.
can make it, if you can be making money being a photographer, like, good for you, like, good on you. And like, I'm just saying, it's like, and in our line of business, if we make it, you make it, like, you're making quite. It's a frugal
Lucrative.
business. It's lucrative. Yeah, you're making money. Whereas it's like photographer, the most you will ever be making is if you're taking pictures for National Geographic, and you're still not making, like.
Well, and the other thing is, I think with smartphones and cameras and smartphones becoming ridiculously, like
High.
like 20 plus megapixels in your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone, and not to mention all the different programs you can get, different filters, whatever. Everyone sees themselves as a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So to try to tell somebody, yeah, I'm gonna charge this much to take pictures, they're just, why can't I just get my friend to take pictures on the
See, and then that's what I like, is it's like, well, we're charging this much for video. Well, I'll make my own video then.
Like, you can't.
Yeah, there's gets really fuzzy.
It's just like, you just can't. It's like, if you, they just don't. Yeah, they don't have the capability. And I mean, yeah.
Like, a lot goes into it.
No, there's you have to be professionally trained. You have to be. There's. And I mean, like, it hits home, close to home, because I mean, my older sister Fernay, she took photography. She's a photographer. She's professionally trained as one, and it's just so difficult.
You
Like,
can even see the difference between an untrained and a trained.
and a trained one, for sure,
Absolutely.
100%. But it's like, your general person can't really. It's like, and they don't really care. It's like, they don't.
It just looks good enough.
Yeah, it looks good enough.
The thing with photography is, people, I would say most people, aside from maybe their wedding pictures, they're satisfied with good enough photography.
Mm-hmm.
But with video,
With
if it's
video-
not good, it's shit.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the
there's
thing.
no like
Middle ground. There's no, like, okay video. It's either it's good or it's shit.
or it's like it's either shit or it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I watch a video and in 10 seconds it's either shit or that looks pretty good actually.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, that's the difference. It's like either, and there's just two types of video. It's like, either a guy pulled out his phone and is filming something with his phone,
Or they're little
or B, it's like or it's like somebody got a camera that's like a professional camera and some sound equipment and some lights. I mean, like, that's.
like, cinematography aside, like, even non-creative people, like, just the equipment and all the different cords and fucking batteries and cards
Software
and computer equipment and, like, lighting, like, just to set this fucking thing up takes 25 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our equipment sits right over there. Like, it's not 10 feet away, and it takes 40 minutes.
Whereas photography, it's like, it's very much like, it's like a hobby type thing, where it's like, you could pull out a camera, take a picture, done,
Well,
10 seconds.
You could buy, this is even a higher end, you could buy a $600 Rebel T3i camera.
Yeah.
That's a pretty, like, you'll take some nice pictures of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No problem. That's what I had in Africa. Took thousands, like literally thousands of amazing pictures.
Yeah.
And
All you had was one card, one camera, couple lenses, and a battery. And you could all pack that
two
around.
lenses.
You can pack that around easily by yourself.
Yep, just one little thing.
Like, I challenge anyone in here to take all this equipment and carry it by yourself somewhere, because you would kill yourself. And suicide is not a joke.
It's not a joke.
No.
Like, and
So
I
serious.
would.
Kill yourself?
No. I would, yeah, if I had to pack all this stuff by myself all the time.
No, yeah, it is kind of interesting, and I mean, I give props, because I mean, like, once again, I understand that people have their art. It's like, some people are passionate about photography. It's like, that's what they are passionate about.
And I don't hate
and
that.
and I give them, like, all power to them. It's like, I hope them success. I'm glad they found something they're passionate about. But it's a tough industry to get into, and it's
And there's
it's not as lucrative as it once was. It used to be, like, to be a photographer back in, I don't know, the
Photography
60s.
isn't-
It's like, you needed serious equipment, you need serious training to even figure out how to pull the trigger on a camera. But I mean, like, Yeah.
photography isn't really a growth market anymore, whereas video is.
Yeah.
Like in the grand scheme of things, like video aside from the internet was very limited. Like television shows, like you had to have crews and lots of money and corporate sponsorship, and photography's always been like people could set up dark rooms for a couple $100 in their own home, like even in primitive years of photography. Still expensive for the average consumer, but doable.
And
But you couldn't do video 20 years ago and have anyone see it that wasn't yourself.
Other than like little home movies where there was like no sound.
No, and even then it was still like
garbage,
expensive,
and
it was
even
expensive.
when VCR camcorders first came out,
Like that shit was expensive. Yeah.
So we're just hitting a phase now where the average consumer could conceivably do higher quality video.
No, we are in the renaissance now of independent filmmaking. Like this is the time for independent filmmakers to come to light, because like we now finally have the internet, which is where we can reach our audience for free. We don't need to go through a studio to reach an audience. We have the internet. It's like we have the capability to write. We have computers with the software that we need to edit and write, and we have access to cameras that are high enough quality that it's like you won't see any, like our cameras, like you see that on television, like it's the same quality. A lot of the time it's higher quality. We are at the stage where it's like we can match a lot of what Hollywood can do.
We can beat anything
locally easily. And
they're multi-million-dollar companies. Like CTV is no joke.
Yeah. So
and, like that's a big.
So I mean, we can match or surpass anything they can do. So I mean, it is really it's the perfect time for independent filmmakers, and I mean I think we're hitting it right when the hitting's good.
Like this is a phenomenon that has started in LA, Vancouver, Toronto, New York, and Montreal. We're even in like the Renaissance. Like this is the Wild West out here.
Yeah, in Saskatchewan, because like there's just nobody doing.
And the thing for us, like we were talking about before, this is not just a stepping stone. Like our whole thing that we're trying to do is to
build Saskatchewan,
build Saskatchewan specifically, and Canada up with our brand. Like we want. We're all.
I'm not just going to move to LA and abandon this. I won't. No. I refuse.
I don't even want to move to Toronto.
No, you can burn me at the stake if you catch me doing otherwise.
I must have just stopped because I just saw it. Oh, we have the audio. We'll just make the black for a couple seconds. Keep speaking.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break now.
No.
Why?
We got a couple more minutes.
Aren't we an hour?
Yeah, almost.
Well, let's take a 5-minute break and then go do another hour.
Let's sign off.
Okay. This is the perfect time. Yes, we're gonna
let's do a couple would you rathers.
And we got 4 minutes left on the timer.
Okay, so would you rather replace your lips with an anus, or your anus with lips?
Anus with lips.
Anus with lips?
I don't want a fucking anus on my face. That's awful.
It would be awful, but
faces.
Yeah,
Fanus?
I mean that's the thing.
I would put lips in my butthole. But, that would be. If you were a girl, that'd be awesome. If you liked anal, I guess. I don't know. I tried to think about that one.
That's not.
Would you rather have a violent orgasm every time you talk to your boss? That doesn't apply to us. I'm not saying not your boss. Every time you address a store clerk, say. Every time you're in a store and you have to make small talk with a store clerk. Or address every black person you talk to as my nigga.
Wait, say those again?
So, would you rather have a violent orgasm every time you address a store clerk?
Okay.
Or talk to or address every black person you ever interact with as my nigga.
So the key is with interacting with store clerks is to not interact with them. To put your food down, go to the other end. And then
but they say anything to you, and you like the second they say anything to you,
it's violent. It has negative connotations.
So like you're like you're yelling.
Well, I would say that you can't just hide it. Like it's so violent,
exposed.
You are obviously having an orgasm right in the middle of the store.
Yeah, I'd go for that one. I feel like I would.
I would.
I was gonna say
I would go with the opposite.
I've got black friends, and it's just like, and I know that in the future in the business world, it's like I know that it's like I'm just cutting myself off in that way.
Okay. Would you rather have your testicles explode after sex? This is stupid. Or your partner eat you after sex? That's stupid. These are all stupid.
Probably testicles explode so I don't have to die. Or have your partner
Would you
eat
rather like do it or
Some of these
not?
are still, would you rather have a meatball sub or pizza? Like, what kind of a question is that? Like, why do I
The
care?
answer to that question is
Like,
pizza.
that's every Friday night when I'm trying to decide, like, would I rather have this food or that food? Stupid. Would you rather spend the next 30 years in a maximum security prison or the rest of your life in an expensive private insane asylum? Ooh, that's actually a pretty good one.
How many years?
So
30.
30 years and like max.
I hate. You know what?
rest of my life. If like
The
if
rest
you're
of your
30,
life in a private
yeah, I would do the
asylum.
rest of my life because 30 years, like you've already missed
Did you hear about that guy?
everything.
That got taken out of
Yeah.
prison.
So I'd be 50.
He was in 35 years. He was in prison, and they just exonerated him. due to
Yeah,
DNA
I did.
evidence.
What do
Did they give him a
you?
bunch of money? or
Killing
no?
a guy. Oh, they better. They
I was
better.
gonna say,
You know,
is
in
there?
Texas, they don't have to, eh?
Really?
Oh, there's been a lot of. Actually, have you either of you watched The Thin Blue Line?
Or maybe is it on Netflix?
It's a documentary.
Okay, we'll
about-
start the next podcast
Yeah,
with him.
okay, sorry, yeah, yeah. Start the next podcast with that. Would you rather? We'll do the one more. Would you rather? We'll sign off here. Would you rather? Would you rather drink a warm Bud Light Lime every morning, right when you wake up, or never drink again?
Warm
More Bud Light Lime.
Everyone.
Yeah.
I was to say we all have crippling.
Okay, we have crippling alcoholism. Thanks everyone for the prehistoric joining us at the Prehistoric Podcast today. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We
Share,
can really use-
please share everything we do. Just always share it. I don't care if you don't even watch it. Just share it. Just share.
Actually, you should watch it as well.
Yeah, but-
Live tweet us.
You don't feel like doing that.
That might be our new thing. Like
I hope that's
we
just
could
always
get shirts live tweet
live
us.
tweet us and never do anything live.
Assholes.
Anyway, all right. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.
Thanks very much. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.